Welcome in to the Monday Morning Quarterback with your boys Ben, Kriski, Dami and Bids. What's going on, boys? How we doing?
Yeah, doing good. Doing good this week.
Good.
Yeah, man.
Ready to get into it.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Really
man.
This rum is delightful.
Yeah, man.
Mm.
Yeah, we did the AFC last episode, and now we're on to the NFC. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. My Giants, they did all right this season, so can't wait to talk about them. I beg your pardon?
I guess we could say they did well for the Giants.
I mean, we won a Super Bowl not too long ago.
Yeah, but it was like 15 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
It was 13 years ago.
Which was it?
What year was it?
I don't know, to be honest.
What's that?
2008?
Well, did Eli stop playing in 2008?
No, Eli stayed a few more years after that. Because the Packers won it in 2010.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Giants won it in 2008. When was the last time they won it?
I'll have a look.
Yeah. The fact that you're saying they won it recently and you're not even 100% sure if it was within the last decade,
I was going to say,
doesn't
the fact that
bode
it's
well.
a decade plus is a bit scary.
It's definitely more than a decade.
Arsenal won the league over a decade ago. Is that?
What's your problem?
Why are you bringing that
Oh,
up?
sorry. Read the room. Arsenal.
No, I remember Wolves winning it.
Huh? Hey. Wolves won a trophy before us.
Wolves celebrate when they lose their big players to better clubs.
I forgot we beat Tottenham the other day.
I'm so happy for Connor Cody.
Yeah.
Cody. What?
That big move to Everton. You were so happy for him. Because he moved to a bigger
He's
club.
got him into the England squad.
Yeah.
Moved to a bigger club though.
And now we're above them, so it's fine.
The Giants last won in 2011. So, yeah.
So how many years ago is that, Dami?
Yeah.
Dami, I think we need to work on the definition of recently.
Yeah.
That's not recently.
Yeah, that's rough. Okay, moving on. moving on. Kriski. Do you want to have a go?
Oh, yeah.
At you or just...
Yeah, this is very bad that you put me in charge today because, yeah, that's the thing. Hopefully everyone's realised I'm not that knowledgeable.
I thought you were going to say that charismatic and...
I felt that one.
That was yeah, somewhere deep that came. Yeah. No, I guess, yeah, we can start jumping into a little bit what happened in the off-season before the 2022 season kicked off. So yeah, there's a bit of, I'll say there's probably a bit more moving on the coaching side compared to actually trades and everything in the NFC. So obviously Vikings got a new head coach. Got who's it, Kevin O'Connell from the Rams. So that turned out to be interesting for the Vikings. We'll get into that in a little bit of detail. And then bit of moving from your team, Giants.
Yeah.
Who did they bring in?
They brought in Brian Dable, offensive coordinator for the Bills. He was apparently the guy who turned around Josh Allen's career.
Made his career.
Yeah, made his career. So yeah, I was pretty excited to have him in. And probably out of all the quarterbacks in the league, I'd say that if Daniel Jones was to look at someone to try and emulate, it'd probably be someone like Josh Allen because he's actually roughly the same size. But yeah, he was just way less accurate.
He's a B-Tech Josh Allen.
Yeah, I'd admit that.
I get that.
There
was
He's not
actually weirdly
quite strong.
There was a bit more glimpses of that, I think, this season from what I saw.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones was a little bit more mobile.
Yeah. No, the thing is, he's actually always been mobile, but he just used to fumble a lot. Every time.
He's not quite as strong.
Yeah.
He's not quite as accurate, although we can debate Josh Allen's accuracy, and we did in the last episode.
Yeah.
And he's not quite as fast. Well, I guess we could talk about speed. Actually, no, they aren't dissimilar in speed. Actually, Josh Allen's much tougher, a much better runner, and a more accurate and stronger in terms of passing as well. He's got a much bigger arm than Daniel Jones.
Yeah, but then if you look at it, then Daniel Jones, you can't say he'll never be a Patrick Mahomes. He'll never be a Joe Burrow.
No.
And he'll never be a Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson. So the player he had to look up to is probably Josh Allen.
So he's like an all-rounder.
Yeah. Josh Allen's a bit of an all-rounder who has, to be fair, he does have a great arm, and he's also ridiculously strong for a quarterback.
He's really strong.
Like, he's almost like, I don't know what position you could relate to him in terms of his strength. Like, he almost has this... that of a tight end. He's basically got the physique of a tight end playing that quarterback.
Like a blocking tight end. He's big.
And that's probably why Brian Dable took the job, because he probably looked at Daniel Jones and was like, He's probably as similar as a quarterback to Josh Allen as I'm going to find in this league.
So he's going to try to turn him into him?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Because didn't Daniel Jones been in the league longer than Josh Allen? Am I wrong? I don't know.
Ooh. I don't
And
know.
you're saying Daniel Jones has to look up to Josh Allen. Obviously, get the logic, but it's just weird that you're saying...
I thought Daniel Jones had been in the league 1 year less
I'm
than
not
Josh
sure.
Allen.
But...
Well, but the thing is, we've had poor coaches in the past. We had, I think it was Joe Judge, and we also had Jason Garrett. Was it Jason Garrett from the Dallas Cowboys?
Mm.
Both of them really struggled, and he looked terrible under those coaches. So Brian Daboll, who can clearly turn around a quarterback's career, he's probably going, I'm going to change the trajectory of Daniel Jones' career and turn him into a good enough quarterback. And
he didn't play that well this year, and they got into the playoffs, but he didn't play that well.
Yeah, but imagine if in the next year he gets even better.
But how many passing touchdowns did he have this year?
He had 15.
15's terrible.
How many games he played?
He played all of them.
So he got less passing touchdowns than he played games.
Yeah.
No, he played 16.
And that's decent.
He didn't play.
He got less. He had less
season.
passing touchdowns in the season than Marcus Mariota.
But they had a playoff game, so... Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, I don't think he's
that
guy.
Yeah.
You've got a guy who's known for bringing that style of quarterback upper level, and his upper level was 15 touchdowns.
Yeah, but also take into account who's he throwing to.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
But
that's fair. But if they pay him in this off season, which they might well do, like how much money they got for talent then?
Yeah, true.
You're in a difficult spot then. Do you pay him? Do you not pay him? Right? It's a similar conversation they're going to have about Lamar. Do they pay him or do they not pay him?
Yeah.
Like, if you pay him, who are you going to give your money to? Who's he passing to?
Yeah.
Same problem.
Yeah,
Rely on rookies? I don't know. It's just a tricky one, right? And do you think he's that player who's worth a big contract?
Yeah, but then Daboll knew that coming in. He knew that we were in a rebuild. That we don't have the players. We're not really, even though the New York market is a massive market, we're not an attractive team to go to at the moment.
Oh yeah,
so he knew that. So obviously he's got the project. He knows the project's going to take him certain years. So for him to reach the playoffs in his first year shows how good of a coach he is.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get it twisted. I think Daboll's brilliant. Yeah. I think Daboll's a better coach for this team than Daniel Jones is a fit for the team as a quarterback.
Okay. Yeah. I agree.
I think Daniel Jones. I think Brian Daboll is a better hire than Daniel Jones as your quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I think I'd rather hang on to Brian Daboll than I'd rather hang on to Daniel Jones.
Yeah. No.
Particularly if you're going to have to pay Daniel Jones.
Yeah. No, I agree.
That's what I'd say. Sorry, Kriski. We got off topic.
No, that's cool. I was actually just going to kind of move quickly through the coaches and just say who else. So obviously, Todd Bowles came in to replace Bruce Arians.
Yeah.
Bears got a new coach, DC from the Colts. So Matt Eberflus?
Eberflus.
What are these names? That's not even a wild one. That's believable. Bro.
And then Sean Payton took his little holiday break and then replaced by Dennis Allen. So you very much focus on Brian.
Yeah.
But out of the new coaches in the NFC, then who would you have expected to make the biggest impact coming into the new season?
I wouldn't say the biggest impact. I just would have expected more. Was probably Todd Bowles at the Bucks. Yeah. With Tom Brady, they still basically had the same offense. Really. They had They had Julio Jones. They had is it Chris Godwin?
Yeah, he was injured a lot.
And Evans as well.
Again, he got injured a fair amount as well.
Like I would have expected because he was the OC when Arians was there, so I wouldn't have expected much to change. And of course, with him going to be the head coach, I would have expected Tom Brady to have more of a say over the offense. So I wouldn't have expected much to change.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at these hires, these are all coaches stepping up into head coaching positions.
That's
right?
Interesting thing, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's a bit different than if you're bringing an experienced head coach from one team to another team for whatever reason. That does happen sometimes, but this is a situation where they're going, right, well, we need to bring someone new in and we're going to promote someone effectively from a coordinator position into that. And I think that's really difficult when you're doing that with a defensive coordinator in a league now where you really need to rely on strong passing and an ability to move the ball. defense is not going to win you championships anymore. Not in the same way. It hasn't for a few years. That used to be the mentality. Doesn't really work anymore. So when you think about bringing in Brian Daboll, that's a big move. Todd Bowles, defensive-minded coach.
Yeah, that is true.
Arians was at least. I mean, he was interesting. Yeah. He had a bit more of an offensive mindset than Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
Do they always choose an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator to promote or to trade to another club to be the coach, or do they reach out to, I don't know, college football or like that?
So I think
good question.
Over the years, the league has moved to, if you're a good offensive coordinator, we'll give you the head coaching job because the league is more suited to offense now, because now they've changed the rules about how you can hit the quarterback and stuff like that. Now it's more of an offensive league. So yeah, offensive coordinators, and also I think it's like out of the last 10 offensive coordinators to make it to the Super Bowl, eight offensive coordinators. So out of the last 10 offensive coordinators to make it to the Super Bowl, 8 of them have got jobs the next season or the 2 seasons after. So yeah, most of the time it is, but every now and then there are some defensive coordinators that get head coaching jobs, like the one you mentioned, Matt Eberflus at the Bears. That was because the Bears' previous head coach was Matt Nagy, who I think was offensive coordinator at somewhere else. So yeah, normally it's offensive.
But they never dip into college.
They do.
Yeah, they did with Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah. At the Cardinals, but that was.
But would they traditionally go straight from head coach college to then head coach NFL, or would they have to then take an offensive coordinator role to then move it? Yeah.
They have done it. There haven't been many that have been successful, and that's why it happens less. Most recently, I think Urban Meyer. At Jags. 2 wins, 11 losses.
Talk about that,
2 wins, 11 losses. It's not good. And it's previously happened when they've had college head coaches move up into head coaching positions in the NFL, and it's just very different. And I think you're having to manage it slightly differently, and it's not an easy transition, and many of them really struggle with that.
What do you mean by different?
So let me try and break it down. So for example, at college, right? That head coach is the person that could stop you from making it to the NFL.
Okay.
Right? Because they can just say, you're not playing.
Yeah.
You're not in the squad this week. And then, of course, we talked about it in a previous episode, the NFL, when they're drafting you, they look at your film. If you've got no film, you're not making it to the NFL, really. Whereas when you go from college to the pro game, you can't hold these players' lives like that. You can't say, "Oh, you're not playing," or because they're still getting paid, and also there's that bit of how you try to demand stuff from them. Because at the college level, you can talk down to them because they're 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. Whereas these are grown men with families and mortgages and shit. Like you can't talk to them like that. You can't leave. Yeah, they'll just leave. They'll just ask for a trade.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I mean, the only difference now in college is that you now have the trading portal, so the transfer portal. Sorry, so that now changes things a little bit, so players can move on from you, but you don't have many programs you can move to. In the NFL, you've got 31 other teams. In college, how many other teams are you really going to move to? Unless you're a quarterback.
Yeah, you want to stay in the top program.
Exactly.
Right, you want to stay in a big time program. We've spoken about quarterbacks and their shifting around in college a little bit when we did our differences between NFL and college. But yeah, it's very, very difficult to manage different types of characters.
Yeah. And that was the massive downfall with Urban Meyer. He came from the college game, came to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and was treating them the same way he treated these kids, these college kids, and these grown ass men who are probably twice the size of him were like, absolutely not.
Egos, right? Egos as well, right? You're talking about.
They're the ones that made it. They're the 1%. They're the ones that made it.
Exactly. And you're now, and additionally, when you talk about salaries as well, when you're the one earning the most in the room, it's a lot easier to kind of own the room. You're now the least paid, probably not necessarily actually. If you're one of the bigger coaches, but if you're one of the bigger coaches, you're probably better at managing those egos anyway. But a slightly lesser down coach might be earning $5 million a year. There's plenty of players on that team who are earning more than you. So now it's a different type of management, a different type of coaching, and many of them can't handle it. Not in the same way anyway.
Yeah, it's understandable.
But I guess moving on to other things that happened in the off season. Then quite a few trades. Obviously, a fairly big one, noticeable. McCaffrey from the old 49ers. From Carolina, moved to the 49ers. Pretty big impact. And then we saw Eagles kind of traded a fair bit to get AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And then who else we got? TJ Hockenson from the Lions to the Vikings.
Look what happened with the Titans with AJ Brown, though.
Yeah.
Titans dropped off a cliff. They had that division locked up.
Yeah.
And the Jags just needed to show up to their games and won. And the Titans just fell apart without him. Obviously, the injury.
Yeah, Tannehill
getting injured definitely put them in a more challenging position, but they literally couldn't function without AJ Brown and Tannehill.
Yeah, well, but that's because they no longer had a real big receiving threat.
He was the only one.
And then they had to rely on Derrick Henry, the running back, who's obviously like the best running back in the league, but at some point you have to throw the ball as well. So especially if you're down, you have to start throwing the ball, and they had 100%. No one to throw to. So 100%. Disaster.
Yeah. But I guess moving on from that, then let's dig into a little bit more into the divisions and what happened in each one. Then I guess let's look at NFC East first. So who we got? So we got Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders. Any initial thoughts on the division and how you guys thought it went?
I thought it was the best division in football last year. I think it was the most competitive. Probably more competitive than what most people thought it would be, which would be the AFC. Was it the AFC East with the Bills, or the AFC West with the Raiders and the Chargers and the Broncos? I think people were surprised at how competitive the Giants were. The Cowboys were very good this year, even without Dak. Cooper Rush was 4-1.
Yeah, which is surprising.
Yeah, and the Eagles were just the best team in football last year.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned competitive. Like, you literally got Commanders who bottom the group with an 8-8 record.
Yeah,
and that's pretty bad when we'll move on to a couple of the other divisions. But that's pretty mad. So even the Cowboys as well.
That's
my opinion on NFC East.
I think it was a far better division than was originally anticipated. I think that's really why you'd consider it maybe the best. I don't know if it actually was the best. If you're looking at overall record, I think it actually is. But you've got to also look at strength of schedule. I think it's also going to come into that. But I think totally fair. That division was the worst, if not one of the worst, in the last kind of few years. Yeah. Suddenly turning up and being one of the best, I think, is not what anyone would have predicted. I would say the AFC West probably has more talent overall. Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. Raiders, how many of their losses? I think 9 of their losses were one possession. Any of those could have gone any which way. The Broncos were very disappointing, but like we spoke about in a previous episode, I think that's probably the best division. The AFC North was also very strong, but I think it's a reasonable argument to say that it was the strongest division if you slightly ignore strength of schedule. But certainly some surprises. Daniel Jones, admittedly, like we said, not the most touchdown passes, but played pretty well. Somehow Cowboys keeping it together was impressive. And obviously the Eagles were stunning as always. Commanders sneaky good as well.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Commanders were sneaky good. Taylor Heineke, sneaky good.
He works for that team. I don't know how. He's not. I don't think he's very good.
Can we talk about Terry McLaurin as well? By the way, because
the wide receiver.
He's the wide receiver one at the Commanders. I'm struggling to see if there's a better wide receiver in the league than him.
Wait a minute. Pause. Better than, Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is brilliant.
Tyreek Hill,
brilliant.
Taysom Hill.
To be fair, if he played wide receiver, he could probably do a bit. The guy could play anything.
That can do it all.
The guy can do it all.
So wait, who's this guy? Sorry, should I really know?
So Terry McLaurin is the number one wide receiver for the Commanders.
Yeah.
Commanders are not a very high scoring team, and they're a defensive team. They've always been a defensive team. They're not a strong scoring team. Taylor Heineke, how would we rank Taylor Heineke? Not a great quarterback.
High, no.
He was a backup very recently.
Bottom 10 in the league.
Bottom 10 in the league. Have you seen some of the catches Terry McLaurin pulls out? If you haven't seen them, people who are watching, look up some of his catches. They are unbelievable. They are of the same level of quality as people were talking about Odell Beckham Jr.'s one-handed catch. Same quality, but because he plays for the Commanders, people don't care as much.
Okay, I'm just going to name some wide receivers in that division that I don't think he's better than.
Okay.
Alright then. So Eagles, AJ Brown. He's not better than Devontae Smith.
He's not better than Devontae Smith?
No.
You don't think Terry McLaurin's better than Devontae Smith?
No.
I disagree.
I don't.
I'm very. Yeah, this is very, very reason why. But the fact that I actually don't know who it is. And then I know at least I can name another 9-10 receivers.
Who does he play for?
But
no one cares about the Commanders.
Is he
but
better?
still, I feel like there's enough wide receivers and players in each team that you kind of pick out because you know.
It's a big opinion. It was a big opinion. It's a big swing.
No. I've got a couple for you more. CD Lamb. Is he better than CD Lamb?
Yeah, I'll take him over CD Lamb.
Okay, is he better than Deebo Samuel?
I don't even know if Deebo Samuel's a wide receiver.
Okay.
That's a gadget player.
Okay.
He plays all over.
Okay.
I would rather have Deebo Samuel in my team. I would rather have...
Is he better than Cooper Kupp? No, he isn't.
Yeah. I would take him over Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, who in 2021 won the Triple Crown for wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bold opinion.
I feel like we could push you back a lot.
I think Terry McLaurin is the most underrated wide receiver in the league.
You know, wait, you've changed it now.
He said in the conference.
No, he's going to underrated.
No, he's got underrated.
I said he's the most underrated.
Nah, you changed it.
Nah, you said the best.
I said he's the best as well. I'm saying the two things the same. I'm saying both.
Okay, fair.
I think he's so underrated. I think he is the best. Okay. One of the best.
Okay.
I would say he's definitely up there.
We can go on first.
We could go on.
We're going to give you a Terry McLaurin hour at some point. You can have your own segment talking about.
All I'm saying is...
why he's better than everyone else.
All I'm saying is look up clips of some of his unbelievable catches.
Okay.
He is hands. Just unbelievable.
Okay.
Doesn't drop.
I'm going to make a note to watch Terry next year, and then we'll bring it up.
Yeah.
In a few months' time, we'll bring it up.
I'm telling you, you give that guy a number 2 wide receiver. You give that guy a quarterback who can throw. Unbelievable.
What team do you think he should be in? Last point. What team do you think he should be in?
If he went to Kansas City, he would be considered the number 1 receiver in the league. Ooh. I don't think it would even be a conversation. He would be getting 14 touchdowns minimum a year. He would be the guy.
I agree with that only because Kansas City don't really have a wide receiver one. Their best wide receiver this season was Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, fair.
So
yeah, they don't need him. They don't need him.
They
don't need him. They make it work without him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he's criminally underrated in my opinion. Some of the crazy catches he pulls out, no one really talks about him enough in my opinion.
Okay.
Like honestly, he pulled out a catch early this season, which was on a par with Odell Beckham. How long have we been speaking about Odell Beckham's one-handed catch? That made his career.
Yeah.
His career was built on that catch.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Terry McLaurin did it. Carried on. No one really spoke about it. And I think it's because he played for a smaller franchise in the Washington Commanders and didn't play for a team like the Giants. Look up the clips. They're nuts.
Okay.
It seems strange though because in any other sport, no matter how or what division or what level you play at, if you're that good and you do a catch that good or you score a goal that good, people see it.
Yeah.
Market matters though.
Yeah.
Market matters. Who you play against and the team that you're playing on matters. It definitely matters.
Actually, you're right about that. It's similar to the NBA. If you do something for the Lakers, everyone will hear about it.
Yeah.
But then if you do something for a lower ranked team, so let me think of a lower ranked team, some team like even the Sacramento Kings.
Mm-hmm.
No one cares what you do for the Sacramento Kings.
Darren Fox is killing it over there. Darren Fox is killing it over there. Do you know they've been top? Also, we haven't spoken about.
It's true, man.
They have been topping that division.
Yeah.
The whole year.
Yeah.
Without anyone getting close.
Kings.
Sacramento Kings.
Yeah.
Do you know who's in that division? Phoenix Suns, Golden State Warriors. Sacramento Kings are leading that division and have been comfortably.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I mean. Your market, your market, and your and your team matters.
Yeah.
No, it's weird because in two sports you've named there, NFL and NBA, where stats is so prominent. Like, there's a stat for everything. It's broken down into so many fine details. So surely, I know the podcasts and shows I look at, they have got 12 stats. Whereas, like, you look at the Premier League, for example, you get bogus stats just to try and fill gaps. Whereas this is actually hard hitting, like stats there to actually make up a player, and it's
we're going to skip over the World Cup, right, and some of those rogue stats.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd give that an honourable mention.
Yeah,
but the level of detail. So this is where I don't buy that. Even if you're in a lower team, you're not getting noticed because you've got so many stats to go pull from, and like people are so focused on it that
I think what Ben is trying to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is it's not that teams won't be looking at that. It's not that other teams or even people inside the NFL won't be looking at that. It's just that when it gets reported or when it's on TV and like TV shows are talking about it, they're not going to be talking about Terry McLaurin or players at his level because he plays for the Commanders, who are not a relevant team, really.
But that then drives market value because a player that is well known, well marketed, is a more desirable player because you sell more shirts.
Yeah.
Your stadium's always full because they want to come and see that guy. It drives different behaviour. And just to give you some stats, 1,000-yard receiving yards is a solid stat for a wide receiver, right? We would say that's kind of the target you're trying to hit as a wide receiver. It's 1,000 yards. That's a good mark to hit. You obviously want to hit a certain number of touchdowns as well. Now, like I said, Terry McLaurin plays for the Commanders. He's not getting many touchdown passes because they're averaging about 15 points a game.
Yeah.
He's not getting many touchdown passes. In his last 3 seasons, let me give you his stats: 77 receptions, 1,191 yards. 77 receptions, 1,053 yards. 87 receptions, 1,118 yards. And then in his first season in 2019, 58 receptions for 919 yards. He's been pretty consistently getting 1,000 yards, except for his first season when he had 20 fewer catches and was 80 yards off a 1,000-yard season. For the Washington Commanders, a team that does not really pass the ball and hasn't really passed the ball very well at all.
Okay.
Just my opinion. I think he's only got 21 touchdowns in his career in 4 seasons. It's not many. He's only getting like 5 touchdowns. But that's because the Commanders don't score many touchdowns. Their running back has no touchdowns. Who even is their running back?
Oh, I don't know.
Right. Robinson.
Who scores?
I don't know.
No one scores touchdowns.
I feel like I need to read it more about the Washington Commanders.
No, you don't.
You don't.
Because it's the Commanders.
You don't.
And there we go.
Like,
And
clearly,
No, you don't.
there's nothing on them.
See, you have a Mr. Irrelevant. Now you have a Mr. Irrelevant team as well.
You wait until I get onto Mr. Irrelevant.
I've done my Terry McLaurin hour, but take 5 minutes. Take my 15 minutes on Terry McLaurin. Take it away.
To the Terry McLaurin, sorry.
Sorry. Take it away. Look up some of his highlights. They are crazy good.
Okay. So next up, big NFC West. So 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals. How did you boys see this one shaping up at the beginning of the season? And then obviously now we'll dive into how it panned out.
I expected the Rams to have a tough season because they basically gave away all their draft capital in order to win the Super Bowl, which they did. So it shows that their strategy worked.
That's still crazy to me though. The fact that the team that won the Super Bowl was never expected to do well the next season.
No.
They were expected to do all right.
Yeah, they were expected to at least make the playoffs.
Yeah, but no one was seriously considering that they would actually win again the following year.
No.
But why would that be? If you kept your same team, you play the same way.
You didn't keep exactly the same team. They spent so much money. They had no draft players being brought in. All of their players were a year older, which means that some of them got a little bit better. Many of them got a lot worse. Aaron Donald's a year older. He's dipping down. Aaron Donald's going to retire soon. Like, we're talking about elite players that are on their way off the other end.
And Andrew Whitworth retired.
Yeah, Andrew Whitworth retired after.
Yeah.
Von Miller, he left.
He got an ACL as well.
Yeah, but I think he was a free agent and then went to the Bills.
Yeah.
So yeah, as some of their players they just weren't able to keep, and also they had 2 major injuries in terms of Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, Stafford went down.
Yeah.
Even then, I think they would have struggled. I think you lose some really key players. It's difficult in that division.
Fair enough.
They were struggling even before both those players got injured.
Yeah.
So, and then I expected the 49ers to be good because the 49ers they're consistently good.
Always good defense. I feel like
Kyle Shanahan is a great coach.
Yeah, and then Seahawks. How did you feel about the Seahawks then? With obviously Big Russ moving on. How did you think they were gonna?
You go ahead.
Russ wasn't exactly cooking in the past couple of years. So yeah, I did expect Geno Smith to play as good as he did. I was not expecting that. But I was expecting them to be solid because is it Pete Carroll? He's a good coach. Like, these coaches don't just become bad overnight. Like, he's been stable. He's been stable in his approach. It's just Russell Wilson got worse and worse. So Geno Smith came in. He's young. He's still relatively young as in quarterback age. I think he's 30 or around that age. So then him coming in, knowing that he's got the starting role, and that he actually gets to be playing week in, week out. He showed what he could do. So I wasn't surprised the Seahawks did well. They were 1 game above 500, which is pretty good. Which is pretty good for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was always the 49ers division.
Well, interesting, isn't it?
Well, I think the thing is with the 49ers, you can go on to Brock Purdy in a minute, but before we move on to
It's not just me, by the way.
You love him, we know. But before we move on to how good the 49ers are, because I think we know the 49ers are good, I'm not 100% certain that Shanahan is a top tier coach. I think he's a good coach. I don't know if we would consider that he's an exceptional coach. I think is the only thing. I still have some question marks, but I think he's a very good coach.
Why?
Why do I not think he's an exceptional coach?
Yeah.
They're a very good defensive team.
Yeah.
My question mark is how they scheme things up offensively. He's never needed an exceptional quarterback.
Yeah.
He's like, my system does everything. Does it?
He had 3 exceptional quarterbacks.
Huh.
I will back that point up in a second. But you just said then that you don't think he's a potentially exceptional coach, but he's then had 3, and even partly in 1 game as well, 4 quarterbacks, and the system still ran.
Yeah, I think the system works fine.
That's not down to the coach.
No, but I think the roster's incredibly good, and that's not down to him. That's down to John Lynch, the GM.
But then you still have to organise.
Yeah, I didn't say it was bad coach.
You give me that roster to me.
No.
And I'm not doing what Carl's doing.
Mate, you can't even organise your roster on Madden.
Legit.
Makes a fair point. I didn't say he was bad coach.
We'll get you to
we don't want to talk about that Madden game. Oh,
jeez.
Oh Lord.
The thing is, I will say this. I didn't say he was a bad coach. I said he was a very good coach. But people are talking about him like he's the best coach in the league behind Andy Reid.
Okay, no, so wait. Obviously, you have a criteria for this. So I'd love to hear your criteria. But first of all, who are the exceptional coaches in your eyes, if there are any?
I think there's a lot of young coaches who are showing a lot of talent and bringing some incredibly average teams to very strong positions. I mean, let's just go over a few. So I like Kevin McConnell. I actually think he's quite good, but I think he's still early days, so we won't go into too much there. I think Pete Carroll is an exceptional coach. Somehow makes it work every year. Geno Smith, we literally just spoke about Geno Smith. How has he made that work with that many rookies?
Yeah,
I don't understand how he's made that work.
True.
Somehow he's made that is one of the worst offensive lines in football. How has he made that work with a quarterback who couldn't make it work anywhere? Unbelievable. Obviously, as I mentioned, Andy Reid is the best coach. I don't even think that's close. I like Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell's quite good as well. Like I say, look, there's a lot of like kind of good coaches. All I'm saying is, everyone says Kyle Shanahan is easily one of the best coaches in the league. It's not even a question mark. I'm just not 100% sure if you put him in another team where the GM maybe isn't quite as good, who doesn't have quite as strong a roster. You're saying to the Panthers? The Panthers get much better?
No, I get the GM point.
Yeah.
I don't fully buy into how you say the system doesn't work if you haven't got the coach. The system is designed by the coach, therefore that's why San Francisco are successful, because they've...
I maybe didn't phrase that right. I think his system does work. He is a very good coach. I just think if you try to move him to any other team that doesn't have the roster built perfectly, I think he would find it challenging. They've always had an exceptional defense because they've been able to draft exceptional players. But if he went to a team that didn't have a strong defense, that relies on a strong defense, that gets you the ball back regularly, where you can run the ball exceptionally and you don't need an exceptional quarterback to pull you out of it and throw the ball a lot, he's going to struggle a little bit more.
But is that not similar with all these coaches? They're obviously top elite coaches, any team across the league, throughout the league. If you put any coach with a good roster, they're going to do better.
Absolutely. I think
so. Therefore, so I feel like it's kind of anyone who looks after Man City, for example, they're going to be top tier.
Like, people have coached Real Madrid and they've not been as good.
But I just think
right. The only thing I'd say, Sean Payton is a better coach than Kyle Shanahan. If I was the GM and I was building a team and I had the option between Kyle Shanahan and Sean Payton, I would pick Sean Payton. He's a better coach, a better man manager, and would lead that team more effectively. Kyle Shanahan seems to need a lot of things to go his way in order for the team to be very good. They need a strong running game, an excellent defense to carry that. That's the way he's built his team, and it works. It's worked. No one's taken that away from him, and he is a very good coach, I feel. I think he needs a lot of things to go his way in order for it to work. It's like Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy needs a lot of things to go his way for him to be successful. If he didn't have an unbelievable left tackle, if he didn't have an exceptional defense, is he really going to win you games? 10 points down.
Yes.
Really? The guy you've seen play about 10 games.
Mr. Worldwide.
We'll get on to we'll get on to him further.
I've spoken a lot there.
Let's move on.
But just to give you a summary of the division, 49ers were the best team quite easily. Seahawks were the surprise package for me, I think. Rams were a little bit disappointing. Cardinals were unbelievably disappointing. Yes. Kyler Murray's a big question mark for me. I don't think he's the quarterback people originally thought he was. Seems quite petty. Seems like he doesn't train that much. Seems like he doesn't look at film all that much.
And after his ACL injury, is he going to be the same player again?
I think they're going to move on from him. I think they're going to have to move on from him. They're not paying him.
They're paying him a lot, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but exactly that's what I mean. They're going to be paying him. I think they're going to have to move on, and I don't think they're going to get much for him. I think, what do you do as a team? You've got the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers. You've got probably three of the best coaches around. Yes, Kyle Shanahan is a very good coach. I think he is still a very good coach. I'm not even sure he's the second best coach in that division, in my opinion. But those three coaches are better. Those teams are better, and the Cardinals are going to struggle.
And that reminds me of the fact that he brought up Kyler Murray. What we were talking about bids the other day about short quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Kyler Murray's what, 5'10"?
Yeah.
5'10", and I'm not going to lie. You think about the offensive linemen; they're all 6 foot plus. He can't see over them when he's throwing the ball. It's a problem, man. It's a mess. Yeah, the guy can run, and the guy can really run, and he can escape out of the pocket. But if you can't see over the offensive line, and you're always struggling, no wonder the Cardinals are a bad team.
And what does an ACL do to that?
Destroy. What's your problem?
Oh wow,
What's your problem?
No, genuinely. Like,
it happened. I was running away from lions, tigers, and bears. And
you should see the other guy.
Shoot one, shoot a lion, send him flying.
You took three ACLs off of the lions, and then you lost your own.
Just genuinely, you mentioned lions and bears. I thought you were just leading on to the next division. NFC North.
If only you meant it.
So we got the Vikings, the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears. So, a couple of interesting teams, I think, this year.
Yeah.
So, Vikings, fresh coach. I don't think anyone expected them to be, I guess, have that much of a record, because I think Ben's probably going to touch on how he thinks they are.
Yeah.
I think how they probably weren't at 13 and 14, but
I'm a lot fairer than he is when it comes to like talking about teams, for sure.
I've just got some rogue opinions, apparently.
Yeah, clearly.
I just watch the games, I guess. I don't know.
And also, this is his division. He's a Green Bay Packers fan, right?
Yeah.
So he's gonna. So there's some emotion in it when he's talking about.
There are
this
some
division.
feelings, all right.
Yeah.
So Vikings obviously got off to an incredible start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say reasons why you think they fell off a little bit, or do you just?
I just think it was unsustainable. Kirk Cousins is not a great quarterback, so for him to have a record of 13-4 is fantastic for him. He's a mid-level quarterback at best. Justin Jefferson was playing out of his mind, but eventually, as you get later on into the season, teams have film of what you're doing, and they'll go, we're going to stop you from doing that. There was that great game between the Packers and the Vikings, where is it Zaire
Alexander.
Zaire Alexander I think patted down a ball that was being thrown to him and then did the gritty on Justin Jefferson.
We spoke about that in a previous episode.
After a while people were going to stop you doing what you're good at because they know what you're going to do. And that's what happened. And like the Vikings, they got slowed down. They were winning a lot of one-score games as well, which that is unsustainable.
That was going to be my next point.
I think we'll touch on a couple of their big games.
But is that not the thing of champions though, or is it different in the NFL, American football?
If you're winning a lot of one-possession games, if you're winning a high percentage of your one-possession games, let's say, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are the better team, because it's very, very close every time. One possession games, it's almost considered that it could have gone either way. So in a lot of cases it could have gone either way. So if you're winning most of your games one possession, you're very, very rarely blowing teams out, which means that are you significantly better than all of these teams you're playing? It kind of leaves a question mark.
Do you need to be the better team or just need to win?
Yeah, 100%. But I think it'll show in the playoffs. I think for me it'll show in the playoffs because the Vikings 13-4 is an incredible record. I think it's overblown. I think that doesn't represent their true nature as a team. They conceded the same number of points as the Lions. They had the same points against as the Lions. Do we consider the Lions a good defensive team? No. Are the Vikings a good defensive team? No. They scored less than the Lions.
I was going to say they scored less than they conceded.
Yeah,
they had a negative point differential.
Yeah, so that means they're not a great team. And like, and back to your question. If you think about it, in football, if you win a 1-0 or you scrape a 1-0 win, even though you're the better team, and then you score a goal in the last minute, and you go, that's the sign of a champion. It's probably because the other team parked the bus for the whole 90 minutes, right?
Okay,
park the bus. In NFL, you can't park the bus. You can. I guess parking the bus is kind of like just running the ball and
running
the clock. You can't park the bus. So if you're not outscoring teams significantly, it means that you don't have the ability to outscore teams. Yeah. So that means you're actually not that much better than them.
Fair enough.
I hope that makes sense. But
you can game plan more in the first half.
Yeah.
It's harder to game plan in the second half. You can plan your first half and the way you want it to go. The whole second half is adjustments.
Yeah.
And that's when you see the nature and quality of a team is how do they show up in the second half? You can blow out a team in the first half. I think this was the thing about the Eagles we didn't really mention. They blew out a lot of teams in the first half. Yeah. Things got a little bit closer in the second half.
Yeah.
They were obviously an exceptional team, and they'll do very, very well. But I think it's just a mark of, are you that good? Like, you're good. You're obviously very, very good. But are you that good? Are you that team that we could really see winning a Super Bowl or being that kind of top 4, top 2 team? I think the Vikings leave a lot of question marks for me when you concede that many points. You score a fair amount, but I'm not seeing much of them that really gave that for me. I think in a one-on-one game, Vikings and Lions, I think that's going to be a pretty close game.
Yeah, you take the Lions.
I guess on the Lions.
Yeah.
I feel like these were a team which were just fan favourites all year. I feel like everyone just, I don't know what it was, but from what I saw, everyone just kind of falling in love with the Lions, that they were on this little playoff run, or they were just trying to get into the playoffs and they were really close.
I think people were just used to them being really bad
for
so long. And then Matt Stafford went to a good team for the first time in his career. He won the Super Bowl. They had Jared Goff, who was a former number 1 pick. Former number 1 pick, and then
he got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he got to a Super Bowl himself. He's gone there. They weren't very good. They weren't very good in his first season, and then in the second year, it seemed that they just took a massive leap forward, and now they're probably the favourites for next season in that division. I would say so, because
they've still got picks from the Stafford trade.
Exactly, and they're the team in form.
Yeah,
they're the team in form in that division at least.
The off season's a crazy time.
Yeah,
and who knows how the playoffs will play out, but the off season's a crazy time. So anything could really happen with that team, but they've got a little bit of draft capital. They've got some players. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad roster at all. Be interesting to see how the Packers manage things. What do they do with Aaron Rodgers and that fat contract? I think we'll move on to the Packers next, but Vikings, I don't think will be anywhere near as good. Justin Jefferson's going to have an unbelievable season. Kirk Cousins, really that guy? I'm still not sure. B+ quarterback, great, but he's more of a game manager for me. Yeah. He's got some range to his passing. I think that's maybe a little unfair. Game manager plus a little bit more, but I think you're really going to struggle. I think Jared Goff has got some really good numbers this year. Yeah. And I like Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I like Dan Campbell too.
People really related to that team because he was just honest as well. I think he came out very, very honest in the press conferences as well about how his team were performing, and I think he made it very clear they were going to fight. They were just going to be that team that just kept fighting and kept fighting. And I think early on people didn't really buy into that. Second half of the season, people really bought into that because they just kept trying and took teams really close. There were some close games they played in.
Yeah, they did.
I was one of those people that fell in love with them. I was like, you know what? I like the Lions. I want to see them. Go for it.
They didn't have anyone where you're like, that guy's a superstar. No, there wasn't anyone in the team where you're like, wow, they're being really carried. Jared Goff, people wrote him off a little bit. I like St. Brown. I think he's a really strong wide receiver.
Who's the receiver that likes Pokemon? He cracks me.
Is that Jameson Williams?
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know.
I think so.
I think
he loves anime, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he absolutely loves anime.
Cracking me up, man. Even his little clip when they're doing the lineups.
Yeah,
and stuff he was coming out with, got me every time. So.
Jameson Williams. Yes, Williams.
Yeah,
he's
Bids. I've actually haven't been able to get this out of my mind. When we were talking about the Vikings and their negative net points differential, right? Think about this. Say a team finished, because they had the third best record in the NFC.
13-4,
yeah. They had the third best record. Imagine a team was third in the Prem and then it had a negative goal difference. You'd be like, how has this happened?
That might happen this year.
Jamal Williams.
Yeah, so Jamal Williams. But say that to happen. You'd be like, what's going on here? How have you got a negative goal difference and you're third in the Prem?
Yeah.
There's something up.
Fair.
Alright then. So, Packers. Ben, as your team, what's going on? Like,
Well,
I'm not like it just seems the last few seasons. It just seems to be like there's just something happening with the Packers. But yeah, I think it's just hit a very big.
Do you know that meme of Kermit where he's just drinking?
Oh, yeah. I can do a very quick summary of what's going on with the Packers. They've got Aaron Rodgers on a fat contract, and he never really seems to commit year after year. Doesn't really practice in the off season. Devontae Adams left as a result. Devontae Adams left, number one wide receiver in the league. Everyone considered him to be the best wide receiver in the league. I think he probably is, but I like me some Terry McLaurin.
I was going to say, what happened to your boy?
Hey, I like me some McLaurin. Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league when he's being thrown to by Aaron Rodgers. He had a good year this year with Derek Carr.
Yeah, he did.
But,
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson was better than this year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
If it stayed in Green Bay, would anyone be talking about Justin Jefferson as the best wide receiver in the league?
No.
I'm not sure.
No, he wouldn't know.
Defense was really weak off the bat. Really expensive defense. A lot of money went into that defense. Rough start. Didn't really work all that well together. Gave up a lot of points early on. Brought it back second half of the season. Defended a little bit better. Aaron Rodgers seemed to decide he wanted to throw to his wide receivers, whereas in the first half of the season I think he wasn't really sure if he wanted to. Didn't like Romeo Doubs. Didn't really seem to like Christian Watson, and decided he was just going to throw to thin air apparently, and to the opposing team. So I think it's disappointing.
Man said thin air.
It's disappointing that someone who's that talented has that much of an ego and can't really bring that back into a professional setting.
Yeah.
I think in professional sports there you have to have an ego to some extent. In certain positions you really need an ego, but to have an ego to the point where you're like, well, I'm not going to risk my stats or my standing by throwing to players who definitely aren't going to catch the ball, it just shows a real lack of leadership in a position that really needs it. So I think that's disappointing for someone that I really liked as a quarterback, and now I'm kind of like, you're not really the kind of role model that people kind of like. You're the role model that people don't like to like. So disappointing. I think there's plenty of other quarterbacks who are more likeable. I think when you're being talked about in the same conversation as Tom Brady, and you're behaving like that, and Tom Brady's always been this kind of perennial, respectable figure who's always been like team, and yet yes, he hammers his offensive line and he yells at them a lot, but he's always been that person. He's a winner, and people look up to him. People respect him, and people respect Aaron Rodgers. But it almost feels a little bit different. It feels almost petty with Aaron Rodgers, whereas with Tom Brady, it always felt a little bit like a reverence, and like people just respected kind of an aura around him. Whereas with Aaron Rodgers, it was like, you may not even play next year. No one questioned really that with Tom Brady when he was playing well.
Even when he retired, you knew he was going to play the next year.
This is it, right? And the retirement was more like, he kind of wants to play still. It wasn't, his players didn't kind of think, is he coming back, is he not?
Yeah, he's just toying with the organisation every single year.
This is it. How are you going to toy with the organisation?
It's been like, I felt like it's been like that for the last 4 years now.
I think part of it with Aaron Rodgers is people don't like his character. Some people just don't like him as a person, and then there was that whole thing with COVID where he said that he didn't say that he had been vaccinated. He said he was immunized,
yeah, which is not the same thing.
Immunized, which is not the same. And then people found out that he had actually never been immunized. He just
never got vaccinated. Yeah.
Do you think his villain story started at the draft, and he was just building up?
It was definitely a factor.
Yeah, no, definitely was, because he wanted to be selected by the 49ers, right?
I mean, yes. Yeah. That initially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that's as much of a factor, because he won a Super Bowl. He clearly bought in.
Yeah.
And when he had talent,
he had to buy in.
And when he had talent around him, he bought. He could have left it. He could have left many points in his career. He's been in the better part of 20 years. He's bought in. He's there. But it almost feels like he's bigger than the organisation and what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
By taking a contract that's worth $50 million. He's decided, I'm getting paid now. I don't really care what happens this year. Whatever happens, happens. Well, obviously, if you're taking a $50 million contract, you're not winning anything.
Yeah.
You can't have a $50 million contract with the current pay cap in its current position and expect to realistically win games. Devontae Adams decided to leave because of two things. salary, but also he wasn't sure if Aaron Rodgers was even going to come back.
Yeah.
How do you leave your number one wide receiver, potentially the best wide receiver in the league, uncertain of who's throwing to him next year? Just a very odd set of circumstances. I think not having an owner affects things as well. Packers don't have an owner. Packers is owned by the fans, so that I think leads to a little real void, leadership void. A little bit of a leadership void, and I think it just allows Aaron Rodgers to feel like he kind of runs the organisation.
Yeah,
and that doesn't really work. Even if you
kind of does,
it doesn't. Even if you feel like you're that kind of character and feel like you can't as the quarterback.
Sounds like he asked himself for 50 million and he got 50 million.
He'll get paid, but at that point when you're that rich, do you not care more about your legacy than the money?
Nah.
No?
Clearly not. Clearly not.
Apparently not, but that's where Tom Brady is different.
Yeah.
Tom Brady cared far more about his legacy than he did really the money. He took so many pay cuts over his career to be that guy that will be considered the greatest of all time until Patrick Mahomes can win a significant number of Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And he may well do.
Yeah.
But that's the only guy. Him? I think he could.
Oh, I don't think so.
I think he could.
I don't think so. That's a lot of Super Bowls, man.
You keep Andy Reid and Mahomes together. There's a shot there.
7.
There's a shot. I don't think he has to win 7 to be considered better than Tom Brady, by the way.
No. But he would have to reach at least 5.
I think he'll have to get 5.
He'll have to be close, right?
I think he'll have to get 5.
Yeah. It's like LeBron and Jordan. LeBron has 2 less than him.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will never class LeBron better than Jordan.
Yeah. Correct.
But I think it's impossible to get to 6. Even though Curry is at 4 and so is LeBron. I think it's impossible to get to 6. Especially the way Jordan did it with 2 3-peats.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we can move on. I just think that's my kind of roundup of the Packers and where I feel it's at. I think at this point you're jeopardising your legacy as one of the greatest quarterbacks of a generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By behaving this way. In my opinion.
Okay. Well,
still love the Packers. It's been a weird year.
Yeah.
Feeling weird about it.
NFC South.
So I think we can quickly get through this.
Skipping over the Bears as well.
Yeah.
Savage. Justin Fields was present, and we'll move on.
They got net minus 137.
Yeah. I don't think
Justin Fields was present, and we'll move on. That's basically
won.
That's basically
we need to talk about the Bears.
That's basically their season.
NFC South. I think this one we can actually get through quite quickly. I think this was out of every division. I think this is the most disappointing. The fact that Tampa actually topped the division with a losing record.
Yeah.
They all got a net minus points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just say the standard in this division wasn't high.
Yeah, it was poor.
Which I think, whether people thought this would actually be a bit more competitive.
I didn't.
I have a question. Who's the best quarterback in that division?
Okay, are we do you want a serious answer here, or are you trying to take the mick?
See, the fact that we're having this as a response.
Well, you
tell me.
Because obviously Tom Brady.
Yeah, you got Tom, but then Panthers went through how many quarterbacks? Saints went through a couple.
Tom Brady's retired now.
Okay, so yeah.
Tom Brady was done after this season, basically, wasn't he? He was. I mean, no matter what happened, he said he was retiring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's assume Tom Brady's retired because he's not. Okay. Who's the best quarterback in this division for next year? Based on who's currently there, ignoring Tom Brady because Tom Brady is going to retire.
I think you can't call it because all those 4 teams are going to look a lot different next year. There's not one of those quarterbacks that I think are guaranteed to come back next year.
Do you want an actual answer?
Yeah, come on, give me some numbers, give me some answers. I want to know what you think.
I think it's either Desmond Ridder for the Falcons, or it's Sam Darnold for the Panthers.
It's gross, isn't it?
Just that's.
Well, you tell us. You're the Falcons fan.
I don't know those guys at all.
Yeah.
You think you didn't know Terry McLaurin?
Yeah. On that logic, that you're useless. So, so hopefully, I'm rooting for NFC South next year, that it's going to come back with a bang, and all those teams are going to just flip.
Well, one of the interesting things is...
I
flip.
I mean, I can promise you it's not.
Well, one of the interesting things is that statistically. Wow.
Big bet.
That's the
One of
the
the interesting things is statistically, 50% of the teams that made the playoffs this year will not make it next year.
Exactly.
So
rooting for the NFC South.
One of the things I really like looking at is who isn't going to make it next year and who could make it next year.
I don't think the Seahawks make it.
You don't think the Seahawks make it? Okay.
No.
Who makes it in the NFC South?
I think it's between the Saints. I think the Saints will pick up a quarterback in the free agency market.
I think Saints are in a real bit of a disarray at the moment with Cap. They're in an absolute nightmare on this.
They're in a real problem spot.
They're going to be gutted.
Figure their way through that.
So I think out of that division, you genuinely, not biased, but Falcons and Panthers probably top it. I think Bucks are going to have to be a massive rebuild.
Bucks are rebuilding.
Yeah.
And that's them winning by being the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah.
It's a bad bunch.
Do you know what? Actually, you know what? Now you said that, I actually take that back. I think maybe the Falcons actually. Because the Falcons, towards the end of the season, they looked like they were starting to find an identity.
And I think throughout the season they were in fairly tight games.
Yeah.
It was just they just couldn't close out.
I mean, they had Marcus Mariota for most of the season, he's not a good quarterback. He's really not. He's really not. And Desmond Ridder, he was effectively a rookie, a rookie from I think it's Cincinnati, and he was fine. He looked like a rookie. He played like a rookie. Maybe in the upcoming season, he will start to really have a way with the offense, and he might actually make a name for himself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still think the Saints might find a quarterback, and then they've got some good players. They've got some good pieces. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. I think if they're able to keep those players, I think they'll be okay.
I'll have to see the Commanders get in. Problem is just Eagles, Cowboys, Giants had a better year.
Yeah.
I think the Giants situation could really play a part in how the Commanders then do the following year, because the Eagles are going to be good again.
Yeah.
Cowboys should probably be pretty good still again. I think they maybe be slightly worse, but not much worse.
Not much worse.
I think the Giants will drop out and the Commanders will jump in.
Yeah.
If we keep Saquon, I think we'll have the same level of performance this year. In the upcoming season, I think we'll have the same level of performance. 9-7, 9-8, 8-9.
I think you'll drop back. I think you'll drop back to less than 500. I think you'll go to 8-9, and I think the Commanders pip it and take third spot and get in via playing by having a better record.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Some bold, strong statements.
I just think if you look at the Commanders, though, we already spoke about it a lot earlier, and I spoke about Terry McLaurin, but if you look at that whole team, do you even think of them as an 8-1 team? They got 500 this year. Do we believe that they're... No one really talks about them, and it goes back to what I was saying before. No one really talks about the Commanders, but they easily beat the Rams in terms of record. They had a better record than the Packers. They had a better record than every single team in the NFC South.
Ouch.
Do you think about that? No one talks... People talk about the Buccaneers way more than anyone talks about the Commanders this year. Commanders have a better record.
But also the Commanders are not a storied franchise like the Packers.
This is it, and this is what I was going back to. It's more about marketing and people knowing your team and having those big name players. Imagine this: Taylor Heineke was benched and they brought Tom Brady in.
Okay, that's a massive...
Everyone talks about the Commanders then, don't they? Just by having that name of player, but Tom Brady would never go to the Commanders because they're the Commanders.
Yeah.
And that...
Surely if Tom Brady went to the Commanders, would they become relevant? I'm talking Tom Brady now.
In terms of the media, in terms of actual performances on the field, maybe not.
I don't think they get significantly better as a team.
No, but they'll just become more relevant.
Get a bit more airtime.
Yeah, they'll definitely get more airtime.
To see them getting pumped.
Yes.
No, they wouldn't. They don't get pumped. They had a better defense than the Eagles this year, points wise. They conceded fewer points than the Eagles. By one, but they conceded fewer points than the Eagles in their 17 games. They scored 150 less. But this goes back to what I was saying. I don't know. I'm not so big on the Giants that I'm saying that they're one of the best teams in the league. They're amazing, but I just feel like they're so underrated as a team when you look at their record and look at the teams they had to play against as well. Their strength of schedule, they had to play against the Giants, Cowboys, and Eagles twice each.
Yeah,
we're talking about a team that was 14-3 and a team that's 12-5. No one else at all in that entire conference had to play those teams in that way, apart from teams in the NFC East. It's just, it's a really weird one for me that they don't get any kind of respect at all. I honestly think if Tom Brady didn't retire and went to the Commanders, I think people would be seriously talking about them as a strong, not Super Bowl team, but a strong playoff team. Like a team that would be easily into the playoffs, and how far would they get kind of team. Just by virtue of bringing a quarterback that probably doesn't add much more than the one you've already got because he's 1,000 years old. I love Tom Brady, but he's 1,000 years old. You know, learn a new system. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke probably gives them a better chance.
Yeah,
but people talk about them in a different way because they're on the map.
You're not even talking about the fact that they had Carson Wentz at the start of the season.
Yeah, forget that guy.
All right, so
Well,
I guess it's kind of the last couple of bits to run through. I think a couple of big stories. I think in the year, so a couple of big games. Vikings Bills. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm presuming you'll watch that. It was
that was in
overtime. Vikings actually got through that, and NFC took a big win there.
Crazy
that was
game.
just insane. I think.
Yeah,
about Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that was probably the catch of the season. That Justin Jefferson catch was it? I think it was like a 4th and 19. And
that was nuts.
He's caught it one-handed in between two players.
That's nuts.
Terry McLaurin could do it with his eyes closed.
True.
Behind his back.
Running backwards.
Yeah.
Spinning.
On his hands.
Upside down.
With his feet.
Watch him do it. With his shirt up. Pops it down into a shirt. It's not a legal catch, but it looked unbelievable.
Yeah, but for them to win, where basically I think all that needed to happen was for the Bills, all they needed to do was get to their 1 yard line,
that's nuts.
and kneel, and the game would be done. And they ended up losing. Was just one of the most insane moments I've ever watched watching NFL. So yeah, big game.
Yeah, and I think the only other big story, which I think just the headline, me and Biz have been on one of them to talk about it all night.
Okay.
Mr. Irrelevant.
BCB.
Let's do it.
Mate, this has got to be the biggest story. You've got first quarterback goes down, second one, Jimmy G, great backup, unbelievable, should really be the start, but yeah. And then you got Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
That is movie right there. Someone's definitely already bought the right. 100% comes in. Yeah, we don't need to go into the technical about great assets, all that, but my God, the guy goes in.
We don't need to, Does that undercuts your whole life?
Mr. Irrelevant becomes relevant.
Yeah.
The lowest paid quarterback as well.
Yeah.
Just
700k.
mind blowing.
It's not bad, is it?
Alright, that is.
It's because he's so humble. You know, he knows about the salary cap. He didn't want to ask for 50 million like that. Hey man, he's all about the team. He's a team player.
Can you imagine if he went in and tried to ask for more than 700k? I'm like, you're not even going to play.
All I'm saying, Brock Purdy should be face of the league next year.
Wow.
Agreed. The face of the league.
You'll see him on Madden next year for
100%.
What, just present in the game?
Yeah. He's going to get his 99 card for that performance. How he didn't get Rookie of the Year.
Because he played like 7 games.
Don't care.
I think
got them to the playoffs. Got them to the playoffs. So
let's give him his flowers. He played well in the face of strong adversity.
As a big time player.
Yeah. You're telling me rookie comes in, third string, not expected to play ever, and he goes and puts performances like that consistently.
He played well.
He had the best offensive weapons out of any team in the
and
league.
all those offensive weapons were singing his praises, going how much of a great great person he was.
Great person.
Great guy.
What? They weren't going to call him out and call him a sucker, were they?
That would have been harsh, yeah. I think he had a lot of confidence given to him by Shanahan and by the organisation because they had such a strong culture and a strong team that you could give him that confidence and say, look, Brock, no one's expecting you to go out there and put up 40 points. No one's asking you to do that.
He did.
Go up. Well, okay. He was present for it. Go out there and do these things and you'll be successful. And I think that simplified the whole game for him. He didn't need to go and do a lot of other things that a lot of organisations are asking young players to do when they're brought in, which is run away from a lot of players because you don't have an offensive line. You don't have any wide receivers. Do your best. Figure it out. Like, he had a lot of support, which gave him a lot of confidence, which meant
he still made a lot of big time plays. So he wasn't just there just moving the ball. He was.
I'm not trying to take him away from him. I'm saying he was given a mindset because of the players around him that made him feel more confident, which allowed him to play his best.
Ben, just admit it, he's relevant.
I didn't say he was irrelevant. You called him Mr. Irrelevant. I didn't.
They called him Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, they did.
Say the words.
I still find it hilarious that they give him a jersey with Mr. Irrelevant on it. That's a violation.
That is violation.
That's a violation. Before you even got in the league.
Yeah, that is shocking.
Who plays him in a movie? When the movie eventually comes out, who plays him?
We're going to de-age Mark Wahlberg and put him in it.
Wahlberg, no.
Proper Bostonian accent. Be amazing, wouldn't it?
I can't.
What's his name?
Toby Maguire.
Nah,
Egerton.
What's his name?
All these are so old.
Yeah, but I'm actually
Timothy
shocked.
Chalamet.
Wait, does Timothy Chalamet look like him?
No, man.
Not even a little bit. This proper spindly guy.
No, obviously not physically wise, but I'm trying to think. Like,
what's his name? Taron Egerton, who's played Elton John.
Taron Egerton's not a bad show.
Yeah.
But Taron Egerton's like 5'5".
Yeah, Taron Egerton's not the tallest fella. But
no, he's not. No.
Yeah, Taron Egerton.
He's 5'5".
So, just before we wrap up that little segment about Brock Purdy, just say it, Ben. He's brilliant.
No, I'll say he's relevant.
No, Ben, just say it.
I'm not saying he's brilliant.
Just say it.
Absolutely not. He's relevant. I'll say he's relevant. He's
made
made himself relevant. Do you know what he has done? Is very interestingly, he's on currently a $700k contract. Just by virtue of playing in these games, he's probably guaranteed himself a backup position in a team somewhere.
Yeah.
He's Taylor Heineke'd himself, which is Taylor Heineke got given a playoff game, go and show up, and he played well, and he was given a permanent role on the Commanders.
Yeah.
Yes, Wentz got kicked out of the team, and now he's running the show.
Yeah.
Heineke's running the show just by one playoff game.
Yeah. He took his chance.
He has taken his chance, and he will be probably a consistent backup in the league for the rest of his career.
Watch this space. When he wins the Super Bowl, then you'll see.
Super Bowl.
When we redo
Super Bowl. Super Bowl.
Wow. I mean, he could be present on a Super Bowl winning team. Him winning them a Super Bowl is different.
Leading.
When we redo the Brock Purdy segment, you'll all be regretting these comments.
We're doing
I'm not even digging them out.
Yeah.
I'm not even digging them out. I've just told you.
Episode Terry McLaurin and Brock Purdy.
I'm not even digging him out. I'm just saying he's guaranteed himself probably a backup position pretty much in almost any team now for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
And how good is that for his career?
Yeah, he'll be sitting behind Mahomes, pushing him to the end.
Chad Henne's doing a good job of that, let's be honest. Chad Henne's been a good backup.
That wouldn't be a bad job for him to be backup to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, they love Chad Henne. Yeah. Chad Henne's getting older though.
Yeah, he's getting older. He's going to retire soon.
Yeah, he may well do.
Get Brock Purdy in
Brock Purdy is going to be as I said, a solid backup in any team. Yeah. I don't know if he'll ever get to be a starting quarterback in a lot of teams. He could if he keeps developing. There's no reason why he couldn't. He's in his first year, but I think just by this season alone, he's given himself a solid career and a lot of money. So fair play to him.
Okay. To wrap up, I guess. Quick round robin. Surprise team of the year, and who's the dud of the year in the NFC? Just quick wrap it up. And who should we start? Dams.
Okay, so surprise team of the year. I am going to go for. I'm not going to go for my Giants, even though I actually think they are the surprise team of the year. So I'll go for the Vikings, because no one could have expected them to go 13-4.
That's true.
So I'll pick them, and my surprise dud of the year has to be.
Is it surprise dud or is it just dud?
Just dud.
Okay, sorry, dud. I will say either the Packers or the Rams.
I'll go next because I'll give my surprise, because I will still say Rams are my surprise purely because of my understanding of professional sports, and a team that wins
should at
least challenge the next year.
At least be relevant.
Yeah, I mean that's a very.
How you gonna have a 1-7 away record after winning the Super Bowl? That is rough.
Can I give my dud as well? Nah.
Oh, before you move on to that, they're the same away record as the Bears. Carry on.
Jesus. And the Bears could be my dud because that minus 137. that's tragic.
And they actually had a better season than many people predicted as well. That's still a dud. It's tough out here for the Bears. I think my surprise team is probably the Seahawks. I think Pete Carroll finding another way to just make that team work, getting rid of Russell Wilson, who's been his guy for the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then finding a way to make it work with a quarterback, like I mentioned earlier, who no one could make it work with many, many rookies across his whole team, and just finding a way to have a winning record is unbelievable. In that division, where people were considering that the Seahawks would be bottom of that division fairly comfortably, and the Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, 49ers, 49ers will probably win it, and then fight it out, Rams, Cardinals. Seahawks blew them out. Seahawks trashed them. 407 points. That's a huge amount. That's solid performance. That's putting up numbers. Geno Smith played well. High passer rating. Some good talent. Wide receivers. There was some talented wide receivers, but Geno Smith just made it work.
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker had a good year. The offensive line somehow held up. It cobbled together, and no one really thought it was going to work, and it just did. Which I think is really impressive. I think for me, the dud team's got to be the Cardinals. You lose 7 in a row at the end. I don't care if you lose Kyler Murray. Like, how do you not have any functionality as an organisation to make that work without your quarterback at all? To just be like, okay, quarterback's injured, alright, season over. Like, how? And even with Kyler Murray, they didn't look great. Like, they were trying to figure it out, then he got injured, okay, kind of game over. But really? How does that really happen? Trace McSorley. Like, what? That guy played quarterback minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, Trace McSorley.
I don't know who he is, but you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just stuck on the name.
Yeah.
Trace
McSorley.
How do you spell Trace? As in Trace, like tracing paper?
Yeah. But it's got to be the Cardinals.
Actually, there was a point towards the end of the season where the Cardinals were playing 2 quarterbacks in games regularly. Where they would like, for example, say they had 4 downs. The first 2 downs would be done by one quarterback, and then they would do the last 2 downs with another quarterback. 2
on the field. I said, where's the other one?
Honestly,
one's a long snapper.
That's mental.
They're broken shotgun, just like, who's it coming to?
No, I'm dead serious. Like you've seen it before. Like when Deshaun Watson came back for the Browns, they would get Jacoby Brissett sometimes to do some running plays because they didn't want Deshaun Watson getting injured again. But the Cardinals were fully just going, we're going to play one quarterback for certain plays, one quarterback in other plays, and they were just doing it.
But surely that kind of makes sense. I know it disrupt your offense a little bit, but surely if you train that way in that you're better at doing these plays, you go on the field and do this. You're better at doing this plays, you do this one.
I think if you design your team around that, but they didn't design their team around that. They were like, we're going to find a way to make it work this season. All right, let's give this a go.
Okay, well,
it was not designed that way originally.
Okay.
I think some of the things you do sometimes see is you get a kind of... you'll get a kind of what's it called, like a stretch of plays. You'll get that what's it called? I can't even remember. My mind's gone blank. But you'll have that kind of attempt to try and get a Super Bowl, and then when you turn the ball over, you may get another opportunity. I can't remember. My mind's just gone blank. But seen that done, but to actually interchangeably use them within plays is a bit wild. Kriski, what you got for us?
Just nice to quit. I'd say obvious choice, but I think surprise would just be the Eagles. I didn't think I'd be that high level. I think this year. I think Jalen Hurts, I think, stepped up big time.
He did.
I think
going to get that money as well.
I think they were just surprised. I didn't think they would be that elite this year. And then Dud, I'm going to join you on the Cardinals. I think just poorly run organisation from top to bottom. I think it's just shocking. So I think a lot of work needs to be done there. But very disappointing from their side of things.
Yes, a lot of points conceded.
Yeah,
449 is a lot of points.
That's a lot.
They conceded 449. The only team that conceded more than them was the Bears. It's not good.
And they had the worst record in football.
Poor Bears.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. Anything else you want to add? NFC roundup?
I think we've
covered quite a lot.
Covered a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
And we'll watch your space for Terry and Brock.
Terry and Brock, exactly. Wow.
Terry, man.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one.